Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Business is War podcast. And today's guest is none other than Grammy Award winning Irvin Mayfield, a true musician, a son of New Orleans, someone who I am extremely proud to have on our show today. And I'm going to talk to him about one of the things that started me off as a man in my journey, and it is music. It is such an important topic that we're not given the type of credence that we should. But today I got the best in the business, and we're going to dig into it. So welcome to the show.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me.
Listen to me. Can you read music?
Of course. Yeah, absolutely.
Like all music or just some?
Well, music is a language.
Mm-hmm.
And so, just like words, there are symbols,
yes.
notations
yes.
for music. And depending on the language or the discipline you're speaking in, for instance, the piano has a certain, as a former piano player, the piano has something called a grand staff.
Yes.
So it has two staffs, two lines, two blocks of lines that you're reading. That's different from, say, if you're reading music for a cello.
Okay.
And the cello, the staff, it's got one set of lines or staff or notes that you're reading, and that will be different. Say the cello is different from if you're reading trumpet.
Okay.
So depending on the one that you're reading, if you're reading music for a cello and you're a piano player, it might not make any sense because the notes are completely different depending on the cello part. And the same thing, if you're trying to read, both lines of a piano and you're a cello player, you don't have enough strings to be able to do that. So it really depends on, once again, like the instrument and the language.
But you can get around it.
Well, for the instruments that I play,
mm-hmm.
I can read it, and because I'm a conductor, I had to learn how to read all the staffs to be able to look at a music score.
So tell me, what drew you to music, and how did you get your start?
I've revisited that question a good bit. I think about it a lot, especially when I talk to people after shows. There are many questions after a show, but a lot of times the question I ask that people answer all the time, I say, well, why don't you play anymore? We just had this conversation.
Yes, we did.
This conversation happens, and probably to anybody who's a professional musician, I'm certain the comments will come in. They hear it all the time.
Yeah.
People always come up and say, man, I wish I'd have kept playing.
Oh, my gosh.
Everybody says it. I mean, I'm talking about all around the world.
Yeah.
In Australia, in Brazil,
yeah.
In South Africa.
Yeah.
Continent after continent, city after city. You come up, people say, man, I got started when I was a kid. And you ask people, say, well, why did you stop? And a lot of times they'll say...
It's a bunch of answers, right? It's always a bunch of different things.
It's usually centered around, like many things in life, and we talked about this, you touched on it just a little bit earlier, it's usually centered around the wall that you have to get to really realize your vision. Whatever that is, you want to sound a certain way, or it's, people don't feel like even if you can execute what you want to execute musically, that is going to give you the life that you want. And so it's those two things that I've heard, well, I needed to go to law school, or I needed to get a real job, or I was never going to be great enough to do it, or, I stopped enjoying it, and my mom kept making me do it, or I lost the passion for it. It's a peculiar thing, because I find, much like the asset of reading a novel, if you can read, and you can read at a level where you can digest the work of a novelist,
okay,
I don't know why you would ever put that down. Why would you ever stop reading novels? I mean, why would you stop engaging in that? And I think music is the same way for me. And when I think about when I first got started, one of the reasons I think I've had such a tremendous journey
mm-hmm. is that being from New Orleans, if you have the opportunity to start the way I did and to fall in love with it the way I did, it puts music in a different purpose for me. So I didn't start in school. I mean, I did play in school, but that's not where it began. It began for me sitting on my porch at 4 years old or 3 years old, watching a band come down the street. Wow.
And I watched the band come down the street, and I just was mind blown. That's the first visible thing I saw when I saw it in person. The second thing is, man, I remember just being like 2 years old or something, and I would go sit by the stereo, and I remember New Edition would come on.
Oh yeah.
And man, I used to love one of the songs. And I would just sit there at 2, and I would just sit there and listen, and it made me have a certain feeling.
Oh,
when I
that's
would hear
right.
music.
Yeah.
And for
So
those two
that's
reasons,
spiritually organic. That's how it grew into you.
those are the two things that happened. I remember my earliest memory sitting there listening to that, and then the first time I saw a band come down the street, my heart raced. I had never seen that. I saw these people following behind the band and the energy, and it's just those two types of energy, that subtle, warm blanket energy, and then that excitement, adventurous energy, and that's what make me think and dream about music, since I was 2-3 years old.
Now I understand. And I remember the first time that I heard a man play the piano was in church. His name was Jason Michael Martin. And he played on a little bitty Casio keyboard, and he ran the entire choir. And I said, I'm going to do that. That's where I got my start at. And
How old were you? Do you remember?
I had to be in like 5th or 6th grade. You know what I'm saying? Something like that, But somewhere around the 6th grade, I can remember that much because I can think about which school I went to at the time. Because we moved a lot. Because I come from one of them families where, stability didn't find us. We had to find it,
Mm-hmm.
But just think about that. This man was playing the keyboard, and I heard it, and I was mesmerized. But let me back up before that. I went to a school called A.D. Crossman on Carrollton. That's 100 years ago. And God rest the dead, Pete Fountain walked into my school and started playing the clarinet, and he played the Star Wars theme song. And man, I was in love. I raised my hand up. I wanted to play that, and I learned how to play the clarinet. My first instrument was the clarinet, and that was in the 3rd grade at A.D. Crossman. And so that's how my music started. But
That's great.
I just didn't keep it. I didn't keep it because life became something else. But all up until that time, I thought I was going to be a musician. So when I had a chance to book you, I said, first of all, I did see you at New Year's. I saw you at New Year's at your new spot.
At the new club, yeah.
Man, you tore it up.
Mayfield's 208 Bourbon, yeah.
Man, you tore it up.
That was so fun. With Don Lemon.
I was legitimately looking like, man, how is this coming out of that instrument? Bro, you a bad dude, man. You don't even care what you play, do you? And listen, that's a rare thing because no man can master more than one craft at a time. But man, you have moved around that treble and that bass clef like a gangster, bro.
Well, so the thing about art, I think when you start off, whether you're a musician or a writer, or you're a painter, or you are an architect, and I think architect, I'm gonna put that at the end because to become an architect, there's a lot more rigor that is required than say to be a visual artist or to be an actor, in theater.
Yes.
You start off with the discipline or the study. And it's funny, you think about the words even discipline and study. Those can be things that would turn you off if you're a young kid to like saying, hey, I love acting or I love playing music. But they call it those things, the discipline and the study, because there is a system that's been put in place, a body of work that allows you to be able to freely express yourself. And so if you're a writer, for instance, you start learning the different forms and structures.
Okay.
Might be short stories, might be, there's certain grammatical approaches to things.
The theory.
Yeah, of course. There's the technical aspects, and then there's the philosophy, which would be the theory. The technical aspects, for instance, like being a former athlete.
Yes.
The technical aspects are you need to be in shape enough to just be able to do it.
Gotcha.
So there's a bunch of things that you have to do, say, on piano, or even just in visual art. Like sketching would be really good so you can understand dimensions. You need to be able to understand dimensions in any form of the visual arts to really be able to execute, whether it be sculpture, whether it be paintings, ceramics, whatever it is. And the same thing in music. There are going to be scales, there are going to be arpeggios, there are going to be certain physical things that you're going to be required to do, voice, with your instrument, that you need to do so you can have the flexibility, the agility to move around. And then there's the philosophy. The philosophy is, well, Pablo Picasso did it this way. Cezanne or Matisse did it this way. Romare Baradin or Jacob Lawrence did it this way. Hemingway did it this way. Faulkner did it this way. Jacob, Lawrence did it this way. Or Maya Angelou, Toni Morrison did it this way. Wynton plays it this way. Louis Armstrong played it this way. Freddie Hubbard, Miles Davis played it this way. You go on. It goes on and on and on and on. Shakespeare did it this way.
Gotcha.
And so as you learn, the different philosophies, you figure out what's right for you, what pieces you want to put into what you want to do. Anyway, I say all that to say, a lot of times people don't continue because you have to get beyond all of that.
Yeah.
To get to the highest level.
But let me tell you, I believe you can get beyond it with the obsession and the attraction that draws you to it in the beginning. That's how so many people can get through the 10,000 hours, is because they're driven by some unlimited source of desire to be around it. For me, boxing, that was it. I was able to stay around boxing for 10,000 hours because it was like I was obsessed with trying to just get to the point. Okay, the same goes for music. I mean, there's something that makes kids go into the basement and just keep playing the piano or the trumpet or the drums or whatever until they can actually go do it with some level of proficiency, right? So listen, I get that, and I'm telling you, you're right. In order for you to master the craft, you have to have a drive to do it, and that drive has to be such an attraction to it that it'll get you through it. I get it.
Well, I think a lot of people are talking about motivation today. People are talking about discipline today, and people are talking about manifestation.
Okay.
Right? So the question is, how do you manifest when you're not motivated? And that's when the discipline is required to kick in. That's when the vision is very critical. Because no matter what you're doing, as you know, whether it be boxing is a wonderful analogy for many things in life.
Yes, it is.
Wonderful analogy. Music, the same. When you get to a place where, okay, I'm not motivated today. And by the way, we've seen a lot of boxers and the results of what has happened when maybe they weren't as motivated to train as hard as they needed to train to come out to do what they need to do, for whatever reason that is. That's why they say it's much better to go about that endeavor with a clear mind, clean energy.
Yes.
Because it's hard to get up every day. Training as a boxer is some of the hardest training that anyone could ever do, and measure conflict.
Yeah.
Meaning I'm walking towards you and you walking towards me, and our job is to inflict physical pain on one another.
The contract actually says to render your opponent unconscious. Okay? I didn't realize that because I had signed like 4 of them before I actually read the paperwork, right? But that's the dumbness of it. But you know what? Listen, that discipline it's overlooked because when you're young, you have the legs and the lungs to do a lot of dumb shit. And so you can sit there and play the same song 1,000 times, whereas a grown man wouldn't have he would not have the mental fortitude to do something like that. But a young person can do it, and that's why I've heard this saying that youth is wasted on the young. And if you are wasting your youth and your attention to detail and your flexibility to learn, because you can learn a language when you're 10 completely faster than you can when you're 40. Because you now have so many rules in your head, because that's the clouded judgment. And so when it comes to music, I got to tell you that there's nothing more beautiful as an art form. Obviously music, boxing, any skilled sport, anything that you do. I mean, this is communication. It's the highest level. So if you had to give me 3 trumpet players right now that are your top 3, who are they? I don't want to put you on the spot like that. You don't have to give me an order of them, but just give me 3 of them that you say, hey, listen, this is it.
Look, I get asked those questions a lot. I'll do you even more of a solid than that. Typically, when I'm answering questions about my favorite jazz albums, or favorite trumpet players, or favorite musicians, more so, I'll give a kind of what I suggest to people if they've never listened before.
Okay, so where does a person start? They're coming from Europe, they never heard jazz before.
Yeah, I think this is great for even somebody that may be here in New Orleans and they might have heard it, but they don't really know what they've heard. So the first thing I would say around just what would be considered jazz albums, the first one that we recommend to students is Miles Davis' Kinda Blue.
Kinda Blue.
It's the largest selling jazz album to date. And the reason why, I think, is because Miles got to a type of approach on that album where he ascended beyond like a label. You know, even the label jazz is almost not good enough for somebody like Miles Davis because like a Pablo Picasso or like a Shakespeare, he's at the highest level of the art form.
Heard that.
So words can't capture what he accomplished. But that album, man, is a beautiful, 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 beautiful album. If you don't have it, you haven't listened to it, you should listen to it. The other thing I would say about this kind of listening is a lot of times when people are listening to music, there's a certain type of listening which is, you know, your opinions have been formed by what you do culturally. Like, you know, culture is what happens around here. I mean, that's what culture is.
Yes,
so
it is.
whatever you're doing with your friends and with your people, it's like going to a restaurant. If you eat this type of food all the time, the first time somebody gives you a different type of food, if you're not understanding of what the purpose is, you might just say you don't like it.
Okay.
If you've only eaten fast food your whole life and someone takes you to a restaurant where the food is cooked and it's a long form meal,
Yeah.
You might sit there and say, man, I don't like this stuff. I don't like this chicken, or I don't like this rice. I like the fries.
Okay.
I like a Coca-Cola. I don't like this other type of a thing. Music is the same way. So when you listen to this, it's a different experience. You have to listen with fresh ears and listen enough. One time, listening to it is like eating a fry.
So you got to listen to it over and over. That's kind of the appreciation of it, right?
I think you have to listen to it over and over enough till you understand what it's about. And why you want to understand what it's about is the same reason why if you're listening to whatever you're listening to, and I don't know what it is, but whatever you're listening to, I like to use the analogy of it most likely probably is fast food. You want to try some other things because it's better for your listening health. It's going to expand your palate.
Okay.
You know, and so let's say they could come up with a pill you could take where you could eat all the fast food that you want to eat and you'll be completely healthy. It still would be better for you to know what a meal is like, to sit down with a hot plate, you know, and have that experience. So listening to this type of music is the same way. So Kinda Blue would be my first suggestion. My second suggestion would be John Coltrane's Love Supreme.
Okay.
It was the first meditation ever used in jazz.
Okay.
And, you know, the concept, he's sitting there going, you know, a love supreme, a love supreme. I mean, it's his, you know, ode to God, to the one spiritual being.
Okay.
And his playing is about that. And when you listen to him play, it's urgent enough. It sounds like, man, this man is trying to talk to God while he's playing. Now, the funny thing is, the first time I heard John Coltrane when I was growing up, I thought it was absolutely, I was about 13, I thought it was the worst thing I ever heard in my entire life. I mean, I had never listened to somebody play an instrument that way, trying to do that kind of a thing, and it was completely ridiculous because I was used to listening to other stuff. I was, 13, and know, I grew up in.
But were you listening to music at 13?
I was, interestingly enough, yeah, I was. I was listening to a lot of different music. My mom had a record collection of LPs that she had. Funny thing is, she was an avid jazz listener. And so I would have nothing else I was doing at home. This is hard for kids to imagine today.
I bet.
That you could actually be bored enough where you're doing something like listening to old LPs. That's impossible for a kid today,
But I did that too. Yeah. So we can agree on that. Listen, I went through all the Motown classics, everything on that label that ever happened, Stax. I mean, I went through all of the historical stuff. And I was able to move forward with a real level of understanding about music. And let me explain something to you. They don't sing like they used to, and they don't play like they used to. Now, I know you're a musician of today, but I mean, which era would you say that you belong in?
Well, one of the wonderful things of going back to about being an artist is really about being in the moment. And one of the things that makes a a lot of musicians' careers, a major challenge is when you have that resistance to that embrace. And I think there's also a common challenge for people in life. You know, I think it's one of the best tools for resilience is to know that there's no greater moment than the one you're in right now. And our job as artists is to create those moments. Which brings me to my last album, which is Sarah Vaughan Live at Mr. Kelly's. Sarah Vaughan is like one of the most amazing jazz singers that you could ever hear. And she's doing this live show back in like 1960-something at this place called Mr. Kelly's, which is not around anymore. And man, it's just such a joy to listen to. But you know, same thing. The first time I heard Sarah Vaughan, I wasn't impressed. You know, I as my taste widened, my appreciation grew. Like many things in life, the same thing. Like, you know, when you first got into business and there were things that you did that you said, man, I just can't wait till I get somebody else to do this. And then as you get more experienced, you get more mature. You start to appreciate even those things that may seem mundane or, you know, monotonous where you don't want to do it. And now there's an appreciation, a love that you have for it because you see the whole process.
So who you listen to when you ride in the car?
Well, my taste now is very diverse, man, and because now I play guitar. Guitar is, you know, an instrument I started about 5 years ago.
Really?
Yeah. It started 5 years ago. And banjo.
But hold on,
3 years
listen.
ago.
You had 100-year head start because you have an aptitude for music that the average person walking off the street ain't about to do it.
Well, one of the wonderful things is that the philosophy. So, for instance, if you can't speak French, but you speak English, but you studied Rousseau, or Jean-Paul Sartre, two Frenchmen, but you studied in English, that's fine. Or you can't speak Spanish, you're reading the poetry of Pablo Neruda, but you speak English. But when you speak Spanish and you read Neruda in Spanish, I would have to imagine it's different. And so music is the same way. I understand, you know, I understood what was going on, but I did not speak guitar.
But you have the framework in order to step into a new instrument. It's nothing but a new voice for you.
Well, it's a new language.
It's a new language.
It's a new language. And so much like if you wanted to go speak Spanish, I imagine you would do quite well because you have the type of fortitude, the type of discipline. But I know if you took that on, you probably could be fluent maybe in 3 years. You know, you would put yourself in an environment. You would probably go to some Spanish-speaking country and you would be there for months and you would force yourself and you would take lessons. You do all, but still nonetheless, although you still would have to do it. So my point is I didn't have the head start is I know what I want to say in Spanish. But saying it is completely different.
But you have a beautiful, beautiful guitar. So you tell me 5 years ago you just picked up and started playing?
Well, no.
There's got to be another story to that.
Yeah, well, 5 years ago, no, I didn't just pick up and start playing it. 5 years ago, I said, man, I think I want to engage with the guitar. I picked up and I could not play it. And then I thought to myself, how long is this going to take? Because
Is that how that happened?
That's exactly how that happened. I picked it up.
So the first time you picked it up, your hands wasn't right. You was messed up.
I had I couldn't tell you.
Man.
When I picked it, and here's the thing: I used to have guitars in my house all the time, but I never played them. I'm not in a guitar town, you know.
No, this is not really. Well, B.B. King. Well, he's from Memphis, Blues, Tennessee somewhere.
Exactly. No, yeah, he's not. That's not.
I'm
saying you've had some guitar players here, but the instruments that are prominent in New Orleans are trumpet, drums, piano, trombones, saxophones. This is not guitar. I mean, there are amazing guitar players who are here and who have been here, but we hadn't had an abundance of them as a part of the tradition, partially because, our culture is a outside culture. So the music, jazz music really got a lot of its development from outside, as well as what was going on inside. So the guitar is a very a soft instrument.
Okay.
A piano and a guitar playing together, you barely be able to hear a guitar. And so, even on stage, it took some time before we could get to a place where there would be amplifiers and stuff like that would bring about. So, New Orleans, started this whole bit of American music, and so that was about the drums and the trumpet and the tuba and the second line going down the street. So that's what I came from. I come from playing piano.
So
in
you
church
played in a
and-
second line band.
That's one of my starts. Yeah, I started playing in second line traditional New Orleans band when I was 10 years old. 10 years old.
Man, it's in your DNA.
Well, I don't know if it's in my DNA necessarily. I have this argument all the time where people say, you're born with it. I don't particularly believe in that.
I don't know, because when I saw you at the joint on Bourbon Street, I was like, God damn! And that's what I told that's what I was telling down there. I was like, man, how is that possible, bro? You was jumping around from thing to thing. You didn't care.
Let me ask you: do you think you were born with the boxing traits? Do you think?
No.
So why do you think it's any different from music? Because music is more emotional?
I learned to fight because it was a life skill that I needed. I was introduced to it.
The music is the same way.
You think so?
No, sir. It's the exact same. When I looked at the guitar, I don't even know if that's the right word. When I looked at it and decided it was something I needed to use to express myself, it was over. It was a dance that started that was not going to end. And by the way, when I started, because I couldn't do it, people are like, oh man, you're great at this other thing. Why are you sounding so terrible at this stuff? Why would you do it? Man, people, harassing me at the show. Please put that guitar down. Man, nobody want to hear you. Nobody pay for you to come up and play guitar.
Blow the damn trumpet.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we here to hear. Play the piano. Do something else. We do not need to hear you suck at the guitar. And that's
Sound
part
like
of the
Eric
process.
Clapton.
That's part of the process. Is that you gotta, if you have a vision. I mean, you know it. It's the same. We talk about the same process all the time, right? You say you fight left-handed and right-handed.
Yes.
Well, you started with one of them first, and you decided to go to the other one afterwards, and
I was trying to expand my palette. I was trying to, create more of the science in
that's
me.
why that's why I went to guitar. I was trying to expand my palette. I wanted to create more. I was expanding the science inside of me. It's the same thing. It's just that I think people, my son, he's 21.
Does he play?
He started playing guitar when he was 18. I bought him a guitar when he was 10. He didn't play it till he was 18. He moved out of New Orleans when he was about maybe 11 years old, and so he had been gone. And then he came back, moved in with me, and he was compelled to play.
Okay.
And he actually started playing before he moved back to New Orleans. And then he took off, and he really put the time in. Now, he also was able to watch growing up a lot of music. He had access to it. So there's he's not starting at the total beginning. So his ascent has been quick. But man, one day we were talking, and he's had kind of like a lot of buyer's remorse around things that he's had to do with music, and because of the rigor, the discipline, the study, the stuff that, he's like, he just thought, I'm gonna pick up this guitar, I'm just start playing it. And then, what happens, the stuff that makes people say, I'm gonna quit. And so one day he grew up skateboarding, and he's a gamer and skateboarding. And so one day I asked him, I said, man, just totally curious, not for any other purpose. I said, but if I want to skateboard, I'm just curious. If I want to skateboard, and I started skateboarding, I skateboarded like 8 hours a day. Like, how long would it take in a year? Could I go down to a skate park and run it?
Yeah.
He was like, what? I said, in a year, if 8 hours a day. He said, man, are you kidding me? He said, man, them people been skateboarding their whole life.
Yeah.
These kids, do you know what these kids do? 8 hours? No, he said, I said, wait, what do you, I was like, skateboard? He was like, yeah. I said, so Lil Wayne skateboard. He's like, no, man, look, we appreciate Lil Wayne for what he's done for the culture but we do, these people, what Lil Wayne does on rapping is what these kids do on skateboarding. I said, well, why is it you don't understand that for guitar?
Yeah.
And he stopped. Conversation took a quick shift. He said, I said, no, I need you to tell me, son. You have just told me very specifically about skateboarding culture, the discipline in it, all this stuff. Why is it you thought it was going to be different with music? And he said...
Oh, you painted it out?
He said, I swear to you, he said, I don't know, I guess I thought it was all energy. I said, wait. So in your mind, when you say, and I'm his father.
Yes.
So you think.
But let's be real, you ain't practicing no more.
No.
It ain't like you sitting around working on chord progressions, doing theory, rests, and other things, and arpeggios and stuff like that, crescendos. You're not doing that stuff anymore.
I am. I have to do that for the guitar. I don't.
For the guitar.
I don't have to do it for the trumpet specifically. That type of practice. But no, not only do I have to practice. This is the thing that might be really heartbreaking to a lot of people. Everybody, everyone, from Clapton to John Mayer to B.B. King to Muddy Waters,
yes,
everybody's gotta practice.
For
everybody.
Sure.
Now, what is practice looks different for different people, and I think this is where the confusion comes in. You know, I was having a conversation with someone talking about the challenging time for business in town.
Okay.
Specifically around, visitorship is down across the country.
Okay.
And so if you are in most cities, major cities, use a good bit of that revenue from visitors coming as a part of their operating budget. So when visitorship goes down across the country, cities struggle.
Yeah.
No matter what city it is. Obviously the big ones like Vegas, New York, New Orleans are going to struggle. But everybody.
Listen, 5% less is 5% across the board for anybody, and that's normally the profit space.
I mean, this is what you know. So listening to this conversation about this, the lamenting about how it should be different. Okay, so you hear, man, something's got to change. Well, something's got to, it should be different. And what should be different is that it needs to go back to what it was before.
Is that ever going to happen?
Well, I just think that we all fall into, to some extent, this idea where we expect things to be different, and a lot of times different, we can change out that word for easier than what it actually is and what's required. Because business evolves, humans evolve, we evolve, music evolves, and we have to be about the business of the evolution and get down to that. When we engage in a conversation about what it wasn't or what it was and what's happening, and we're really engaging it from a negative speak standpoint, it is really not going to be beneficial for us to get to where we got to go. And the great analogy here, universal concept, whether it be boxing, whether it be music, whether it be business, is that it evolves, and you have to do your part to make certain you're evolving with it. And those that look like they're having such a grand time, or they have such a high level of ease, or like you say, hey man, you're not afraid of any instrument. The work is done long before I get on stage.
So you can handle the adjustments that's necessary.
So I can handle the adjustments that are necessary.
On that note, my next book is called The Pivot. Nah, I'm joking. It is called, that is my next book, but I speak about change as an inevitable thing that we all must adhere to. And so when you speak about business, let me give you another pivot that most people aren't recognizing. Younger people aren't drinking the way that generations before used to.
Alcohol consumption is down across the country.
Yes, it is. And I think it's because this generation would rather, let me see, I don't know, there was a big vape. Vaping was high at one time. It's falling off. How do I know? Because we opened probably 3 years ago stores that were selling out. They put anything into the vape. The kids were smoking it, the popcorn lungs. They was blowing up in their cars and blowing up in their houses. The vape pens was just doing all kinds of stuff. FDA couldn't regulate it, didn't know what was in it, didn't know the nicotine purification process of it, all that stuff. Fast forward 36 months later, which is now, those same stores are closing because not as many people are buying the vape pens as they used to. Man, there was an entire boom of stores that were opening for vape pens, and now they're not. And I tease young men all the time, you can't run around the corner because you vape. But back in the day, that was a normal thing for people. When it comes to business, everything changes. I mean, look at it. There's no more cash money in masterpiece stuff. And the reason is because music has changed. Now, let me ask you, did the digital Apple Music evolution, not only did it drive album sales to the floor, because they're virtually non-existent anymore. Because if you got Apple Music, you have access to everybody's music. And I don't think Apple's paying the artists the way that they should, But My question is, like, how has the digital evolution of music impacted not only album sales but livelihoods across the board?
I was just having this conversation yesterday because I just opened in December 1st. I just opened a new recording studio. And I was talking about some different concepts, some different structures.
Okay.
That we should be trying to see what works. And I was having a conversation with another artist, and they were pretty down.
Okay. Explain.
Well, I think the larger point I want to make is that, in my experience, you got two general philosophies.
Okay.
You have the philosophy that's a negative, down, everything you see is, a problem.
Yeah.
And then you have the philosophy where things are great. The best time to be alive is now. What a wonderful opportunity. And we're going to make the most of it. Let's test some things. Let's do some stuff.
Okay.
Man, I've been winning. Don't know how to lose. Winning is amazing.
Okay.
I think, we've come up with different words for that. I think, some of the words we've come up with are resilient. Some of the words we come up with is positive, individual. But I really think that so goes the result, so goes your philosophy. And, I could say, a bunch of different statistics about music that would be negative, but I could also give a tremendous amount that are positive. I mean, we have more access today. Like literally, the world's music
is at your fingertips. At your fingertips.
I mean, when I was a kid, we used to have to scour to go find a cassette tape. If I wanted to hear, to get a recording, John Coltrane playing in, Japan on this, we got this, and you borrow the tape, and guys, you have to bring this tape back, and then you're trying to figure out if you can record your cassette tape. God, don't let your cassette tape eat that man's cassette and ruin, all this kind of stuff. And now all this is available. I mean, not only is this available, the videos. Now you can see what John Coltrane looked like, Pablo Picasso looked like, or you can see what Dr. King looked like. All you could do was just hear the speech. Now you can pull it up anytime you want and watch it. You can see Mahalia get up and sing the song.
That's perspective.
So it's a tremendous, tremendous opportunity. The best time to be alive is now. It's always now. The best time to be in business is now. It's always now. And if you don't believe it, then you need to change your philosophy until you do. That philosophy.
Oh my God.
That philosophy is going to serve you and your friends and your family and your community a lot better than the one that says now is not the best time to be here. Now is not the best time to be in business. Now is not. So that being said, to answer your question, I really think with the advent of artificial intelligence, because I get asked about this a good bit too, is that I think, if artificial intelligence comes along, and I know you do a good bit of merchant services. And there's always the question of, what are we going to be able to do, although your business is going to be around for the most part.
It's recession proof, it's not bulletproof, but we will see. Go ahead.
No doubt.
Go ahead.
No doubt. I think if the human doesn't have to sweep or clean,
they wouldn't do it.
Or cook,
they wouldn't do it.
Or farm, we can do other things. Now, people say, what are these other things we can do?
No, ain't nobody else saying that. I'm saying that. What else?
Well, here's the thing. We will figure it out. There's nothing wrong with needing to find things. We are creatives. And by the way, much like merchant services, much like that concept that 100 years ago didn't exist, that exists now, we figured that out. We came up with something to do.
So that's your perspective. It doesn't matter what it is. We're going to figure it out, and we'll be all right, and this is the best timers right now.
I think that's not just my perspective. I think that's the universal human
Hey, I don't know anybody else with that much positivity. Nobody. I'm being 100% honest with you. But listen, if you ask the average musician who was actually at Peaches on consignment selling albums, that was the best time for them. And here comes Apple Music, and they're going to digitize it. Here comes Napster, and they're going to take in, copyright infringement all day long. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that was the digitizing of music in a way in which, and cataloging it. Okay, yeah, that happened. But right before that was the golden age when people were making real money. When the was making $1 album, whatever. She sold 2 million to 10 million albums. Well, yeah, she made some money. Now y'all got to go on the road and perform. Look at that. You don't get the album sale revenue as much as you do the actual go out and perform revenue. So yeah, you might have to restructure your contracts to get more of that money. But trust me, them album sales, when Eminem and the rest of them boys was selling 10 and 15 million albums, they were actually getting paid off of that. Not anymore, unless the label was robbing them, which happened too. But I'm just saying, right now, them little bitty royalties that be coming from YouTube plays and stuff like that, I don't know anybody that's getting rich off of them.
I think that around the economics of the business, and I think all business has economics.
Sure.
I think the question for artists, specifically with musicians, is just what specific area of the business do you want to fit in? I think merchant services is a wonderful concept that most artists have never engaged in. Here's a very simple concept right there, which is, to talk about, well, first of all, when you brought up Peaches, for those who don't know watching a podcast, he's dating himself and myself by talking about this old place that actually still exists on Magazine Street but in New Orleans, but it used to be by Gentilly and Broad.
Yes.
And it was a place where people went in and they bought physical CDs.
That's right.
And before that, physical LPs.
That's right.
And because people were buying these physical products, the record companies would make a lot more cash, as well as then give the artist a much smaller for most artists percentage, like you said, the dollar Whitney Houston would get off the $22 LP. But it still was just $1.
Yes.
Okay. What artists have an opportunity to think about now is to think about, well, where are all the dollars? Okay, there's still dollars. They're still there. It's just the artists haven't thought about what the dollars are. Merchant services is a good one. Somebody's listening to it on a phone. How many phone companies do artists own?
I don't think they're giving y'all that information.
Well, I don't think anybody's giving anybody any information about anything, right? I mean, who told you about merchant services? How did you learn about it?
I was recruited.
Well, I would recruit you too. How were you recruited?
I was recruited because I was luck. Labor under correct knowledge. Right place, right time, right attitude, right energy, right vibe. Opportunity knocked. I answered the door. And so you got to be built for merchant processing. You gotta have a level of fortitude that most people don't.
For instance, like what?
For instance, like it taught me so much about the way money movement worked in this country. Whenever you go to FedEx and ship something, there's a cost. Fuel costs, surcharges, insurance on it, logisticals, airplanes and trucks and vans, and even the oxygen in the tires. All that stuff is accounted for when they ship a package and put a price on it. Well, when you move money from writing a check, there's a cost to it. There's a cost to moving money from one institution to another, from one person to an institution, paying bills, etc. Somebody's got to get in the middle of that and do it securely. So for me, when I discovered payment processing, merchant services, point of sale systems, and things like that, it gave me a whole new heightened level of the way business looks, because I got a chance to get to the backside and say, how does the money transpire? Okay, now that I got that understanding, I'm seeing who actually does make more money. Why do gas stations make more than restaurants? Even though the margins are lower in the gas station, because if they buy the gas for $1, they're only making two cents a gallon, stuff like that. Well, it's different for chicken. So now you over here frying chicken. Somebody had to buy that chicken, prepare that chicken, flour that chicken, season that chicken, grease that chicken. And you know what I'm saying? There's so many different aspects to business that I was able to learn because merchant processing gave me a window to see the perfection of business. And so Here it is 21 years later. I'm not doing too bad, but at the same time, I see the constant changes that have to happen from generation to generation, from day to day.
Like, I mean, just the top two right now of these changes that you see are necessary.
Like, for instance, AI is doing so many jobs right now that business owners are running scared because marketing companies are going out of business. So what marketing companies have started to do now is they're trying to use AI to keep marketing. Even though if a person goes right to the source, just like in music, hey, look, can I go to, I got to go to Gonzalez and get my distribution deal. You know what I'm saying? Everybody knows how it works. If you can leapfrog somebody, why would you pay them and not just keep moving forward? That's the goal for anything, is to keep getting closer to the actual, So listen, right now we take and shoot a film. Okay. We can call Netflix and Amazon and try to get a deal right now. But you used to have to go through somebody else or somebody else who knew somebody else, and everybody else is stepping on it, and you, the artist, aren't getting the revenues like before. So that's one shift that I see in the current market right now, is that AI is here. It is causing problems and solving problems at the same time, because that's what disruption looks like. Here's the next pivot. If you just walk outside right now and look around, you don't see a lot of people doing a lot of things. So where are the jobs? So let me get this right. The unemployment rate is low because the numbers are doctored. The stock market is stratosphere high, and some of the big rich people are shareholder feeling okay because the market is high. So unemployment is low and nobody has a job. The stock market is high and all of the numbers are where they need to be at, but ain't nobody trading on nothing that makes any sense right now anyway. Okay. So the entire U.S. market is, in my humble opinion, as a person that's just been watching, it's got some questions. I don't want to call it a joke, but just think about that. If nobody has any jobs, and let me tell you something else that I'm privy to as far as information goes. You can look at the cost of Netflix. Mm-hmm. The price went up and continues to go up every 9 months, mm-hmm. but the number of subscribers are down. Mm-hmm. So we can fix the money, but people aren't utilizing it as much as they used to. They even had to come out with a thing where you can give grandma your password, but you're going to have to pay us like $9. So they started doing that type of stuff in order to offset the fact that they couldn't use all their resources to just secure their platform because people were sharing passwords, right? So business is constantly changing and evolving. I think that the U.S. economy is doing some stuff that we're so inflated. A loaf of bread shouldn't cost $10. And it shouldn't only last 3 days. Remember when you was a kid, bread would last 2 weeks, huh? Think about it, man. When you was a kid, and it was good too, But now I don't think that the products are the same. So where are all the chickens that McDonald's put in chicken sandwiches? You know what I'm saying? Like, where they at? I know one chicken farm in Mississippi, but do you know where any chicken farms are?
I do not.
Yeah, well, how is it that everywhere you go on every corner there's a chicken sandwich? Is it real chickens? You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying that so much of this U.S. economy is doing so much from a business perspective to continue to survive and grow. But at the same time, I don't know that it's a truthful tale of what's actually happening right now. So am I nervous? I know that every balloon has to pop. It'll either deflate or pop. And if it keeps getting bigger and the pressure isn't properly valved, then there's problems. I could go all day and talk about the cost of stuff not matching the dollar and common sense. For instance, right now, today's 30-year-old isn't a homeowner like they have been in the previous 30 years.
Correct.
Okay? Today's 30-year-old man and woman don't have children like in previous generations.
Correct.
So we would have to average 2.5 kids per household in order to maintain the U.S. population. So question for you, Netflix, you going to keep raising the price because you have fewer subscribers? People are single now. Nobody's really going to the movies. I mean, business is war for real, because what happened is, to the people that are at the top listening to me now, hear me clearly, you have done a wonderful job of getting rich. But if you do not circulate the dollar back within the households that help to get a guy who's got a job, got a piece of a life to be able to sustain himself on one income, we can't do it right now. It's not realistic. Man, just go down the street to a restaurant. The cost of a plate is ridiculous. And you don't even get nothing. You be hungry as hell because I don't even know if it's real chicken, getting back to that point. So it's very interesting. Let me ask you a question. Do you feel like the venues are still full of people really listening to music? You said visitorship is down, so how does that impact you?
Well, two things that I want to give a response to. I think what you gave was a pretty eloquent overview where you see businesses right now, and even your own business, which I think you said, it's you're in a good place, but you're not Teflon.
Not at all.
No business, I assume we're saying, is Teflon. I think there was a book that I read a couple of years ago. I'm trying to remember the name of it for the life of me. But I have to send it back to you so you can put a link in it.
Yeah.
But the book was basically about if you feel bad about where things are right now, here are the statistics to show you.
I already know where you're going at. Let me tell you why. Because if you look at the interest rates a long time ago, they were higher than they are now. If you look at the cost of a house long time ago, that was probably the cheapest time to buy a house. Let me tell you why. Because if you see, that's one of the small differences. The interest rates might have been higher back then, but the cost of a house today at, let's say, $500,000, it'll probably be $600,000 in 10 years. Because that's the way money's trending. Again, I just don't know. You see that the U.S. president right this very minute and the Federal Reserve chairman are in a war like children over the microphone. And I'm saying that first time in U.S. history. We're not approaching peace. But getting back to your theory here, because you said to me that always see the good in things. I mean, I'm getting it, and it's humbling for me because it's like, as a journalist that has to report on the facts a little bit, I'm aware. But man, that perspective that you have is a very powerful one, and you can choose to see both sides of the coin.
Well, I think it's important. There's a concept, Factfulness is the name of the book, by the way. Factfulness, and it's based upon actual statistics in history that shows why right now is the best time in the world to be alive. And the premise of the book is that if you feel bad about things, after you read this book, from the facts that you read, you'll realize that as humans, we're doing what we need to do, and we're going to always continue to do it. So why don't we feel that way? That's a different question. The first place...
I want you to answer it, though.
Well, I think the first place we have to start. So when you were talking about, you said, for those who are at the top, and I mean, I'm sitting in your beautiful office right here. I definitely don't feel like you're anywhere near the bottom when I walk in this.
True, but I made some life decisions now.
No doubt. But I'm just saying, when I walk in and I see your level of success, which I love.
Thank you.
Right? So when we're talking about success, like you're in my success group, right? When I'm saying, hey, I need to talk to the guys who are successful. You one of the guys, successful guys. We need to change some things. You one of the guys, right?
Yes.
I think the first place we start is with the individual.
Okay.
Because before we can get to the community, let's do what we can control first. And we can't control what's on the outside. We're going to get to that in a second, but you know this already from being...
I'm listening.
Being a boxer. We got to start with the inside. This is what training is all about, right? As a boxer, you start to see, well, how fast can I run? For how long? How many miles can I keep up this pace? How consistently can I do it every week? How consistently can I keep my diet the correct way? How fast can I get this bag? How hard can I get the jab? How much energy can I reserve? So all that discipline comes down to inner strength, inner understanding. So the first place is to start on the inside and to come to the level of awareness about you are here right now. This is what I love about my profession. When I pick up a trumpet or I play a piano or I play the guitar, I'm not playing yesterday. I'm not playing tomorrow. I'm playing right now. And it brings me into recognizing and understanding that I'm here right now. The second thing is that other concept after we get outside of ourselves is being an artist, and this is one of the things that I do think is superior, and I don't use that word lightly, to sports.
Tell me why.
Because sports are about competitiveness. Not completely, but it is an essential leading factor. The art is about creativity.
Yes.
And you want to be in a creative environment. When you get into the creative environment, it looks like this. Everybody can win. How much? As much as we want. Everybody can win as much as we want.
That is a different playing field than sports, for sure.
Everybody can win as much as we want. For how long? For as long as we want. We want.
If you told that to Michael Jackson and Prince when they were going back and forth against each other, they might not agree.
I think that it would have been, and these are two musicians who, I have so much love and respect for as artists, and I think that would be a flaw. I think that would be a flaw because I think the reality is that their art is limitless. There's no limit to it. It is the substance of the Creator. That's why we call the one universal God the Creator. And what I'm tapping into with this energy that I'm talking about, which is I understand what I know what an artist's job is. And what I'm talking to in you that's making it resonate is I'm talking about something so fundamental to the human that was bestowed upon us by the Creator. We all have it in us. We're all limitless. That's the nature. That's what you love about Michael Jackson. That's what you love about Prince. That's what you love about Armstrong. That's what you love about B.B. King. You don't love these guys because they're great humanitarians and they're humanitarian. I mean, that's cool if you did that. You love the essence that humans create and that if we so visualize, it will be. So we have to come to this place of saying, let's create the most creative environment to solve our issues. I don't really like to use the word maybe issues, but
challenges,
overcome our challenges. Let's be about the business of that. And this is what we do when you sit at a piano, and you do it with yourself. So that's really how I see the concept. And I think that concept really can apply to anything. So when I'm looking at, folks ain't moving around as much as they used to, not a problem. Not a problem. Well, where are they? How do we create the most amazing experience so wherever they are, they experience that? And then the few who decide to move around are getting an even better experience. Or we're creating an experience where people say, I gotta go.
Yeah.
I have to go. I have to be there. I need this. I want to create music that people say, I need it. I want to hear it. That's the feeling you get from when you saw me play. I'm trying to create we have to be here. I don't want to be anywhere else tonight. This experience is amazing. Versus the concept of, Seth Godin, the wonderful, investor, marketing guru, internet marketing pioneer. He talks about the fact of a lot of times he has this wonderful book called This Is Strategy. And when he talks about putting together a strategy, a lot of times people wait for just conditions.
Okay.
I mean, you would know about this in business.
Yeah.
If you're waiting for just conditions,
they're never gonna come. So listen, that's the boxing. I'm gonna tweak it a little bit. There's never a perfect time for anything. There's only now, right? That's kind of sort of the boxing philosophy, because I used to be like, man, when I get in shape, man, when I do this, when I do that, when I, that win never really comes, and so once I understood that, it made all the difference in the world. So a friend of mine told me today, he said, Elliot, when I'm finished this, I'm going to do that. And I told him, I said, one of the hardest lessons I had to learn, and I still struggle with it today, is that nobody has to do anything for you to do anything. And that was hard for me because I still struggle with that, because I still feel like, well, if he just do this, I could do that. Or if he could just did that, I could do, or she, or we, or, you know what I'm saying? I still do that blame game in my mind sometimes because I want more. I have an abundance mindset. I want to do more. I want to try some more stuff. And I still use the excuse, well, when this happens, or after I finish that, or after that. And that time never really comes. And so sometimes I have to just force it. And I don't regret having forced it, because it's like carpe diem, you got to seize the moment, right? I struggle with it just like anybody else. I mean, I'm not oblivious to being hit and hurt and bruised. I'm human. I take a lot of shots from people who I've loved in my time, It's rough out here. And I say that because, again, that's the journalist in me. I'm looking at what's factually happening, And so look at this thing. The man in the arena. Are you familiar with that?
Of course.
And that's everything. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles. And I don't do that. You know what I'm saying? Or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error or shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. Theodore Roosevelt. So the reason I know this, and this means something to me, is because I'm a trier. I'm a doer. I will execute. I will continue to try. And I'm gonna start playing the piano again. So you got my word on it. So you gonna teach me?
You know what I love about music?
What?
Like sports. The only way, I can sit there and show somebody any song or anything over and over and over again, but they got to sing it. They got to play it. They got to do it. And there's no amount of money that can get you to do it for you. Like, you've got to do it.
That's the truth, ain't it?
It is a true thing. You might be able to pay somebody to come sing it. You might be able to pay somebody to come play it. But the only way you're going to be able to play it is you've got to work it and do it yourself. And back to your point about piano, there's a growing trend of older adults.
Picking it back up.
Picking back up instruments. And we talked about this a little earlier before we started about how during COVID, there was this boom in people purchasing instruments, buying keyboards and buying guitars.
I already got mine.
I think it's amazing. I think it's wonderful for your health. It's wonderful for your mind. But also I think it says something about you when you want to tap into that true youthful energy of learning again. Because if you play the piano now, you're doing it for the same reasons. That when you first started, you're tapping back into that pure energy of why you do it. That's what I loved about the guitar for me, man. The guitar returned me back to, why do I do this again? Because, I had been doing the stuff for so long in so many places and so many different environments. You can get outside of, what it's all about. And, the guitar returned me back to, man, I love this. It was like, I was so terrible at it. I mean, I couldn't even play a note, but I wanted to, and it reminded me
That's
of
crazy.
what that was all about,
In 5 years? You know how many people do nothing in 5 years? They've been watching Friends for 5 years and, TV shows and stuff.
But I think that's the other thing. About it, right? It's like the guitar gave me an opportunity to look at, a smaller vessel of time to see different results. Because I've been playing the piano, I started when I was, 10. And I've been playing the trumpet since I was 9. And I'm 48. So my relationship to it is of that kind of time. And when you start getting to 30 years of doing something, it's a different...
You're a beast, man.
It's a different... it's just a different relationship to it. But, man, when you look at something, whatever it is, say, I've only been doing that 2 years or 3 years, and I have that experience in music as an artist, it was special. And I didn't think that would be a thing. If you'd have told me 10 years ago, man, I never even thought about it. I couldn't even have imagined. It wasn't even on my mind. And that's the beauty of life. And by the way, that's the beauty of that creative environment.
So what is the future of music if people are not playing instruments, but they're playing sound machines?
You will never replace people playing an instrument because...
Tell that to Chat GPT. Listen, I'm gonna make a prediction. In
Sure.
20 years, we're gonna be in the nightclub, and they're gonna have no DJ, and they're gonna have no band, no singing, and they're gonna have the robots playing the music. I'm just saying.
I think you could have robots playing music. I don't think you won't have robots playing music. More so, what I'm saying is that you'll never replace a kiss. You know, if you ask somebody you love for a kiss and they write down the word kiss on a sheet of paper and hand it to you, that's not what you were going for. You were going for an experience.
What about the blow up the artificial dolls in China that they're coming out with?
I think
that's nicer to you than your girlfriend.
I think once again, we're going to always have services that can be provided, but the business of being human is the business of being human, and it's going to always be about the relationship. You know, what we are doing here is having a relationship with one another,
yes,
and a relationship with ourselves through one another. It's the creative process. And we're going to always figure out a way to be able to be more connected. Like you said, just like in business, we're all trying to get to the center.
Yeah.
Well, human existence is all about trying to get back. We're working our way back to the core, back to the center. You know, Dick Gregory always says that you got one job once God made you born.
What's that?
To get back home. And that's what we're all aiming to do. One way or the other.
So if I had to ask you next steps, what does the future look like for you? Got any albums on the horizon? Got any bucket list, wish list? Give it to me.
Well, you know, 3 things that I'm really, really excited about. One is the opening of the new venue I have here in New Orleans, 208 Bourbon on top of Felix's Restaurant.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you. We really are excited about it. And as you know, being at that night with Don Lemon, man, we had so much fun with everybody. That was so fun. It was so amazing. So that's one. 2, I just opened a new studio at 530 Norman Francis Boulevard in partnership with Mid-City Sound Studios. And I'm just so excited about what's going to come working with artists here. Such a beautiful, beautiful location. And, you know, I'm stoked about that. And thirdly, I'm becoming a spokesperson for this organization called Human Watch. And Human Watch is all about human potential.
Okay.
And anything that can assist with humans being the best they can be, and anything that gets in the way creates resistance for that. Human Watch is about eradicating that, and it's about supporting things that allow humans to get to be their greatest of potential. And to be a spokesperson for an organization like that, I'm really excited. They're a nonprofit organization, national organization with memberships. I'm really looking forward to that. So check out Human Watch for all those who want to be involved in that.
Well, listen, after talking to you today, I think you're the guy for the job. Human Watch.
Human Watch.
I don't understand how it's going to work, but I can't wait to see it work. And
Me too.
I'm supporting you in everything that you do. Ladies and gentlemen, Irvin Mayfield, the Grammy Award-winning musician and bit of a philosopher. Don't hate me for that, because I gotta tell you something. I talk to people all day long and they don't know their first and last name. Okay, but hey, you got it going on, and I have to question some of the things that I think of. Should I be more journalistic, more practical, or should I be more optimistic? He's giving me the harmonic balance that we call the treble clef and the bass clef, and I appreciate it. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Business is war, and we will see you on the other side.